Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me again today for a different strategy game experience. This is UltraCorps, and UltraCorps is a very old-fashioned, uh, straight out of the 90s, browser-based, massively multiplayer game. Less massively now than it used to be, but still significantly multiplayer, and I think a lot of fun. If you like Dominions, I think you can like UltraCorps. And so I'm going to be showing it off for just a little bit. I'm not sure how well this is going to work, but we will see how it goes. So, some background. UltraCorps was designed in the 90s, and it first started on the Microsoft Gaming Zone, I believe. And it used to be huge. You used to have megas, UltraCorps megas of like 1,000 or more players. Mega games, which is what they were called. Mega games are where the game built a galaxy, essentially, since this is a futuristic space strategy game, very soft sci-fi, kind of tongue-in-cheek, lots of fun. But so the old mega games used to just build the galaxy as the game went on. Every time a new player joined, they were added on the edge of the galaxy, and the game just kind of rolled for a long time. UltraCorps was sold off to Steve Jackson Games in the late 2000s, the 2008, I believe. 2006, 2008, something like that. No, it was sold in 2006, I'm sorry. I actually started playing in 2008. And by that time, it had already gone well downhill in terms of population. People weren't really paying. It used to be subscription-based. People weren't really paying their subscriptions, so they sold it off to Steve Jackson Games. Steve Jackson kind of revamped the old hardware and rebuilt it on more modern machines with more modern coding, and re-released it. And it has been sitting in free-to-play, quote-unquote, beta for, at this point, like 15 years or 14 years, something like that. Steve Jackson has never monetized it, which I don't fully understand. There was never any advertising, never any monetization placed behind it. And as a result, the game has dwindled. I mean, I'll be totally upfront about that. When I first joined UltraCorps and started playing, my first mega game had, I want to say, upwards of 400 people in it. And now this mega game, which has been open for several days for joining, has 21 at the moment. So it's much smaller than it used to be. It's sort of a smaller, hardcore community, but I think this game deserves to live on. I spent years playing UltraCorps. It was a significant part of my gaming experience in like my high school and early college days, really even before college. I stopped playing UltraCorps regularly back in 2013. So yeah, my first couple years of college I was playing UltraCorps. But my last mega game was in 2013. And so it's been about 5 years since I've been on this website and playing. And as I've been doing more on YouTube and playing more strategy games, my thoughts kind of turned back to UltraCorps, because I thought, hey, UltraCorps was really cool. Why don't I play UltraCorps again and record it and show people what it was all about and how it was? And so that's what this is. Destruction Delivered is the newest mega game. It is starting April 1st, so it will close in it is the 28th, late at night on the 28th right now for me. So it will stop taking applications. You stop being able to join the game after 6 p.m. on March 30th. If you want to join this game, I definitely encourage you to do so. Even if you're completely new, by all means, throw yourself in. What I'm going to do is I am actually going to record this game just as I play. I'm not going to delay it, nothing. If you're interested or curious about the game, by all means, watch and see what I do and why. Now, obviously, like I said, I haven't played this game for fucking 5 years, so I am rusty as hell. I will not be playing at the at the top quality that I used to be back when I could play against Star Charger or some of the other real old veterans and fight them to draws or sometimes victories, even if I was lucky. I'm not that good anymore because I just haven't played the game in a long time. Compared to Dominions 5, the game it's interesting. UltraCorps does not extend turns, ever. The turns just roll, generally once a day. Generally every 24 hours is a new tick. Games are shorter, so this one ends between turns 29 and 31. It's random. The victory condition is to have the most worlds controlled at the end of the game. So it's random to prevent a last turn suicide rush, essentially. By making that risky, someone might snap you back. So shorter games than Dominions, over in a lot less time. A game like this game will last a month because it will go one turn a day at 8 p.m. every day. The tick will roll, rain or shine, whether you've issued orders or not, and it will only last for 30 turns. And in that time, you might get up to somebody, if they're lucky and skillful and in a good position, might get up to 40 or 50 worlds, potentially, but probably not, to be honest. Probably you'll max out in the 20s or 30s, even if you're very, very good. So it's kind of a more condensed experience than Dominions 5. It's more intense than Dominions 5 in a lot of ways, I find. It's faster paced, it's a little bit smaller. There's a much wider variety of kind of powers and abilities between the units. Let's just jump into it, and I will show you a little bit. I won't be able to issue orders yet, because the game isn't starting yet, but I'll be able to jump in and show you. So we're going to join the game. When you join the game, you choose your alias. This was my old nom de plume. I used to call myself Berserker with alternate caps, but I am going to be, of course, General Confusion. I will receive email notifications when the game ticks. That'll be fine. These actually often don't work, I've found, but because the game is old and it's no longer really supported by Steve Jackson. Like I said, they never monetized it. They've never done anything with it. I believe Steve Jackson Games officially isn't really spending resources on the game anymore. Instead, Kira, who was someone who worked for Steve Jackson Games and kind of was in charge of the UltraCorps project, has taken it under her belt and is now personally supporting the game. I believe with the support of a couple of the old-time players. So I would really like to kind of get UltraCorps boosted up again, because like I said, it was fun as hell. But in any case, when you start a game of UltraCorps, you get to choose between all these different races. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 races in UltraCorps, 13 species. And the difference between these species is they start with different amounts of resources, some of them, and they start with different units and the licenses for different units. A big mechanic in UltraCorps is that in order to build a unit on a planet that you own, you first have to purchase the license to allow you to buy it, which costs a certain amount of money. In UltraCorps, the money is Ultranium, and population is the other resource. Every unit has a cost and a complexity. Cost is paid in Ultranium, complexity is paid in population. Ultranium is lost. It actually goes to pay the cost. Population, you keep, and population grows over time, but you have to have enough population per turn. So if you're building an A7 Mauler, for example, which is a tank, it has a complexity of 65. That means 65 of your population units are allocated that turn to build one A7 Mauler. And of course, if you don't have 65 free population who aren't doing anything else, you can't build one. You can partially build units, and that actually becomes part of strategy. I'm not going to go through... I'll go through all the races real quick here. But so basically, every race has... EI is the rate at which your population increases every turn on a given planet. RER, resource extraction rate, is how much Ultranium is added to your planet every turn. And these are the units that you start with, listed up down here. So the Entradishar, which is this race, and this is probably the faction I'm going to pick, because I like them, I used to be quite good at them, starts with 7 A7 Maulers, which are a moderately powerful surface unit, 2 ATO3 Crawlers, which are transports. They have a CA, carrying capacity of 200, which means they can carry 200 size worth of ground units. I'm trying to highlight that there. And they move at speed of 70, so they're quite slow, actually. But so you start off with a couple of those to carry your ground units. You may notice the A7 Mauler has a CA of negative 30, which means it takes 30 space to be carried. You start off with 4 cargo boosters, which are very slow, simple, speed 50, carrying capacity 100. Basically a box with a space drive. Very cheap, very slow, high capacity transports. You start off with 20 Sentinels of Garsasso, which are ground units. They function a lot better when they are on the ground, when they are in the base fleet of a planet. I'll talk about what that means. But they also function as chaff if you take them in a space fleet, which is basically all you want them for. 40 Super Space Fighters, which are a basic self-propelled chaff unit in space. They have speed 100, so they're relatively fast. Not the fastest, but kind of moderate speed. And the centerpiece of the fleet is one Gigantoplanet Attacker, which has very high stats, and this is what we would refer to as a capital unit in UltraCorps. Strategically speaking, UltraCorps units can basically be divided into 2 categories. There's chaff and there's capital units. Chaff are units with relatively low stats, that are cheap. And obviously there are finer gradations, which I'll talk about as we go along. But for example, the Super Space Fighter. Real quickly, firepower is a derived number that lets you know roughly how strong a unit is in isolation. It's very useful to look at, but it's somewhat complicated to explain what it is. Offense and defense are the percentage chance of this unit either landing a hit on an enemy unit or negating a hit that has been landed on it. So out of 100, these are percentiles. So the Entradishar Super Space Fighter has about a 1/3 chance of successfully hitting someone with one of its attacks. It has a 22% chance, or about 1 out of 5, of successfully deflecting an attack that has been landed against it. Population damage is a rating of how many people on a planet that you are fighting over this unit will kill when it attacks. It is actually a fractional value. PD of 10 eliminates 1 population unit per round. That happens no matter whether you've hit or missed. Attacks is the number of times you get to roll your offense. So the Super Space Fighter has 1 attack. That means it gets to make 1 percentile dice roll every round, and on a roll of 30 or less, it has hit with its 1 attack. Carrying capacity we talked about, speed we talked about, cost and complexity are what it costs to build the thing. Cost is a base value, and that will fluctuate according to the game economy. If few people are buying a specific unit, then the cost will go down over time. If lots of people are buying it, the cost will go up. Scan range refers to how far away this unit can see enemy fleets. It does not have a scanner. It is not a scanner, so it has a scan range of 0. License refers to how much it costs to pay the fee to let a world build this unit. That's essentially the cost for building the factory to build this unit on a given world that you control. So, the Super Space Fighter has low offense and defense. It's a chaff unit. It's designed to absorb hits because the main mechanic that you have to keep in mind in battles for UltraCorps is that all hits are randomly allocated across the entire enemy fleet. So, let's look at the Giganto Planet Attacker. The Giganto Planet Attacker has an offense of 90, which means it hits 9 out of 10 times with each of its 18 attacks. It has a defense of 96, which means it has only a 4% chance for a hit to get through its defenses. However, what you have to consider about that is that if a unit takes a hit past its defense score, it is destroyed instantly, no matter how powerful it is. So the only defense a capital unit like this has is a really high defense score. And what this means is, if it takes 25 hits, statistically speaking, it's going to die. It has 18 attacks, so it kills a lot of units every round. It has a carrying capacity of 400, so it can carry a significant fleet of support units. Speed 70, fairly slow. Cost 210 and complexity 1000, so it takes a lot of population to build it. However, the Entradishar can build it with a cheaper license cost. They only pay $750 for the license instead of 1000. And they build it for 750 complexity instead of 1000, so they build it more easily than anybody else does. So this is the main mechanic of UltraCorps battles. Capital units are actually surprisingly vulnerable because they still only take 1 hit to destroy, and with a defense of 96, that sounds really high, but it still means that 4 out of every 100 shots will destroy an Entradishar Giganto Planet Attacker. So that's why you take a bunch of these guys with them, because since all hits are randomly allocated, if you have a Giganto Planet Attacker and someone's throwing 50 shots at it, it will be destroyed. Statistically speaking, it will be destroyed on the first round. If you have 25 or 30 Super Space Fighters along with it, those 50 shots will be randomly distributed. Some of them will overkill. Sometimes 2 or 3 shots will be targeted at one Super Space Fighter and blow it up, and the rest will be wasted. But statistically, that means that only a couple of shots will be targeted at the Giganto Planet Attacker, which means it'll live most of the time. The odds of it being destroyed are very low at that point. And so then it will get another round of getting its 18 attacks, of which 15 or 16 will hit. And so it will destroy probably 12 or 13 enemy chaff units and thus reduce their own firepower. So that's the main mechanic. Your capital units inflict a lot of damage. Your chaff units basically soak up damage for them. Some chaff units have actually pretty high offensive potential, like the A7 Mauler here, has a fairly low defense score, especially because it's fairly expensive, but it gets 3 attacks at an offense of 50. So on average, this sucker will be blowing up 1 or 2 enemy chaff units every round. If you can get some cheaper units to screen for it. So, you have different layers and ways and means. In terms of other factions, the Arachnons here, So everybody has special abilities. All factions have their own special thing. The Arachnons free spawn Scuttlers, which are these little bug things, which are just very, very cheap chaff units, based on how much population they kill in a battle. And they also migrate population to their own homeworld automatically by destroying enemy population. They start with almost entirely ground units, and then a bunch of these OSAA2 incinerators, which are fairly powerful, but also have very, very high population damage ratings. So they kill 8 population each every round, which means you spawn a lot of Scuttlers. Ectonians have a pretty balanced and fast fleet overall. They start with 2 Megabots, which are a highly upgradable unit. UltraCorps has a number of upgradable units where you can buy the base unit, and then you can also build upgrades like this Type 9 Hyper Booster, which has their own separate cost. And if you leave this upgrade and a Megabot in your base fleet on one of your worlds at the same time, they will automatically upgrade and become a Megabot V2, and then that can be further upgraded with an Arc Cannon to become a Megabot V3, which is a very powerful and fast capital unit, and then that can be upgraded with a Hyper Annihilator Array, which is hugely expensive, to become pretty much the most powerful unit in the game. So, you can see how that works. The Ectonians focus very heavily on upgrading Megabots. They get 15% complexity discount on Megabots and all Megabot upgrades, so they build them a lot faster than anybody else. And they have a price cap on Super Space Fighters. These units right here, the same ones that the Ectonians start with, that the Entradishar start with. The Gwir, or Gyre, or however you want to pronounce that, I've always pronounced it Gwir, never pay more than base price for Psy Haulers, which are a super fast transport unit with high carrying capacity. They start off with a very fast fleet of ground units, very fast fighters, speed 120, and TK bikes, which are incredibly fast, but not honestly very durable, so you have to keep that in mind. The Nozama are the opposite. The Nozama start with a huge horde of Nozama fighters, which start off as fairly effective offensive chaff, and they increase the number of attacks they have based on how many are in the group. Nozama also have the unique ability to build Nozama Queens, which free spawn Nozama fighters. So if you're a Dominions player, you can consider the Nozama to be something like Solaria. If you set it up right by building Nozama Queens, the Nozama will spawn Nozama fighters from all of their worlds, and they will collate them and into huge balls that will attack different planets, and in a mass of 500 or more, Nozama have 7 attacks each, which makes them actually quite dangerous. Swamp Beasts, they get extra population growth. They start with a powerful but slow fleet of primarily ground units. They also start with the license for the R-Class Wrecker, which is one of the very toughest capital units there is, but is very huge and is hard to transport. It's a ground unit, and it's hard to move, but it's tough once it gets there. Offense fairly low, but defense 99, highest possible in the game, and it does have 30 attacks, so it can do some damage. Vatak Warriors start with a couple of E-Class Suicide Fighters, which need to be chaffed very heavily because they have a defense of 1, but they do a ton of damage, so there is that, and they're fairly cheap. They also start with the N-Class Battleship, which is another upgradable capital unit. It can be upgraded to the V2, which has a much higher offensive capabilities, and then to the V3, which has a defense of 98 and 30 attacks. So once again, pretty powerful. The Zenrin start with a horde of just absolute garbage chaff, but they once again start with upgrades. Zenrin Warmonks are interesting because they're chaff units that can be upgraded. So you can upgrade these guys to the Zenrin Fighters, which are much more powerful. You can upgrade them to Zenrin Warriors, which are basically very light capital units. And then you can upgrade them to Zenrin Masters. And Zenrin Masters are very, very competitive, high-end capital units. All of them are ground units. None of them can move on their own, but they all have carrying capacity -1. So transports can carry a lot of Zenrin. Cosmic Needlemen start with nothing but 16 Hurak Stealth Fighters, which are invisible and super, super fast. You can't see these guys if they're stationed at a world. You can only see them in transit with sensors. And they hit pretty hard, so they're very useful. We've looked at the Entradishar. The Matog just start with a shit ton of money and nothing else. They have to buy all their licenses and build their own fleet right at the start, but their starting world starts off very valuable with 1,000 population and 3,000 Ultranium. The Orn The Orn get plus 10 defense for Theros all-purpose saucers, which are a basic combat/transport unit. They also, if they're at the same world as an upgraded Boron Recon Buggy, which is a ground unit that the Orn also start with, they get twice as many attacks, which increases their firepower significantly. The Orn start with Boron Recon Buggies. They do not start with the upgrades, so they do have to build those. They can be upgraded to a Boron Buggy V2, which is slightly better. If you look at the, it's 9 more points of defense, basically. And then they can be upgraded to the Boron Recon Buggy V3, which has twice the offense rating and double the number of attacks, so is significantly more powerful, as well as a little bit more defense. The Solborg, or Skullborg, or whatever, get money for winning battles. They start with a wide variety of ground units and a few fighters of various different kinds. They're very popular because this ability is extremely powerful. They're not my favorite, but they have a wide variety of units and a lot of licenses right at the start, which helps them out. And finally, the Xeron are probably the most popular race in the game at the moment. They have the unique ability to upgrade the Xeron Medium Cruiser, which is quite an efficient and cheap kind of medium capital unit, to the Xeron Heavy Cruiser by building the Force Coil, which only they can build. And the Heavy Cruiser is extremely effective and quite fast, has carrying capacity. Well, I say quite fast, pretty decent speed, high carrying capacity, good firepower, high defense. Overall, it's very, very good. And the fact that only the Xeron can build it probably accounts for the Xeron being so popular. They also start with some recon buggies, some sentinels, and some war mechs, which are basic ground chaff, as well as a few fighters. So for this game, we're going to be playing the Entradachar because they're what I'm most familiar with. The Entradachar, of course, have their fleet built around the Gigantoplanet Attacker. They also have a bunch of super space fighters. You start off with a number of transports, which I can use to start transporting resources back to my capital planet in order to build it up to the point where it can churn these guys out. And it starts with a bunch of basic scanners that I can deploy around my empire in an effort to catch enemy fleets incoming before they attack me and destroy my planets, steal my gold, rape my women, burn my houses, etc. We also start with some sentinels that the Gigantoplanet Attacker can carry around, and some of those heavy tanks. So, we're going to be starting with the Entradachar. You can name your homeworld. None of this matters. None of this. All this just determines what visual you get on the planet. I believe it was planned at one point for these to have in-game effects, but they never really got around to doing that. Now, I used when I was playing this game, and I'm going to do this just for tradition's sake. I always used to name my homeworld Arion. It doesn't mean anything. It's just a word that I picked back when I used to play UltraCorps a lot, and so I'm going to stick with it for now. So we will continue. The game will be built after everyone has joined, so I can't go into this game and show you what it's going to look like just yet. So instead, we're going to hop out and we're going to create a solo game so I can show you what UltraCorps looks like. Yep, we're going to create a solo game real quick. Just going to pop on into it. We'll start with the Entradachar again. And yep, carry on. Okay, so click here to enter the game. So this is the ComNet screen. This is where you can see whatever battles you fought in the last turn. You can see the list of worlds and manage them all. You can, if you're the owner of the game, you can run the tick. You can see game information. And you can end the game, or over here you will see messages from the other players if you're in a multiplayer game. If I click on this link right here, it will take me to my world. And doesn't this look 90s? Doesn't it just bring back all kinds of nostalgia? This is the screen that you will see when you're in the game most of the time. Over here I've got my worlds. Over here I've got the map. It's a very small map. Can zoom out or zoom in. By clicking on these various buttons, you can pop all the way out, and that's my little cluster of about 13 worlds there. You can zoom in until you can see all the names. White worlds are ones you own. Orange or yellow worlds are neutral. And in a multiplayer game, other players will have other colors, which you can actually set. And I'll have to remember how to do that because I don't recall how to do that at the moment. But other players will have other colors, which you will see around you. Actually, maybe I can't change them anymore. You can click on these worlds and it will show you what's on those worlds. So population, Ultranium. This world is very, very lightly defended. Just has a couple of ATO2 scouts and 9 war mechs. Gives you all the relevant information about it so you can plan all of your attacks. This world is actually also very close to Arion. It's only 22 units away. Then I have a world here that's 57 units away with a little bit more firepower on it. This world has more yet. And this world over here is about the same as Kane, Marathon. So, the important thing to do then is to, of course, when you're determining what to attack, to determine what has the highest EI and RERs compared to their defenses, because obviously what you want is the most resources possible for the least work. In a situation like this, I would almost certainly be attacking this world first, and my strategy would be to strip this world completely and just dump all its resources onto my capital in order to build this world up very, very quickly. In order to do that, in order to attack people in UltraCorps, what you do is you build fleets. So I'm going to click on Make New Fleet. It can assign random names, and that's fine. And you can choose a different type of fleet. Combat fleets are the basic ones that you command. They go to other worlds, and they attack them and try to take them over. Gift fleets are how you give units to other players, which is a key part of diplomacy in UltraCorps. Gift fleets, when they are sent to a world, become part of and under the ownership of whoever owns that world, whether it's neutral or whether it's another player. So you can bolster neutral worlds if you want to, although I wouldn't say that's very useful. Or you can trade things to other players in exchange for money, resources, diplomatic favors, what have you. Auto fleets are how you manage trade between your own worlds, or resource transfers rather between your own worlds. The first thing I'm going to do is make a combat fleet. I'm just going to leave that name blank. You can use these fleet names to essentially talk to other players, just like you can rename commanders in Dominions. So we're going to take the Gigantoplanet Attacker, and we're going to take the Sentinels of Garsasso, plus I'm going to say 2 of the A7 Maulers. We're going to assemble that. Actually, we're going to take 6 of the A7 Maulers. And we'll take them all. We'll also take these cargo boosters. So we're taking a big, powerful chunk of firepower. And we are going to deploy that fleet to Isaran. They will reach there in 1 turn because they are speed 70 and it's only 22 units away. We're going to make another fleet. We're going to put all of our super space fighters into it. And that fleet, which will take some attrition doing this, is going to hit Kami right down here. So Kami has some super space fighters of its own, some all-terrain rovers, and some Nozama. Isaran has, of course, just a little bit of defenses there. And then we need to buy some new units. We've got 600 Ultranium, 550 population right at the moment. We have licenses for all the units we start with. We could start work on another Gigantoplanet Attacker right now. That's actually not a bad idea. We're just going to buy 1. You can see it won't be finished this next turn. It'll be finished the turn after. If we decide we don't want to do that, then I can say, okay, instead, how many super space fighters could I get? I could get 22. You can place a maximum order of 50 at a time. Placing an order locks the price in at whatever the level currently is. So if you think this is a good price and you want to keep it, the strategy here is super space fighters, you say 22. I know I can buy that many. That leaves me 72 Ultranium. I'm going to lock in another order. Well, I can't do that because I don't have any population left to start on it. So instead, let's buy 21. And then let's buy max. So now that order will be locked in at 24 Ultranium a pop. Since I'm the only player in this game, if I didn't do that, the price would go up next turn because I have the economy turned on. And so they'd be more expensive when I started my next order. This will get me 71 at the base price. So now that we've done all that, if you own the game, of course, you can just run the tick. So what happens when the tick runs? Go back into here, hit run tick. And the Accutronics, an error occurred during the tick. Well, no, it didn't. Everything worked out fine. I don't know why it gave me that message. But, so, over here you see my recent battles. I captured Isaran and Kami from nobody. Damn, nobody gets everywhere. And you can look at unit cost history to see how the cost of every unit has changed. If you're a stats nerd like me, this gives you all sorts of fascinating information. Like the fact that 100% of the resources spent last turn were spent on super space fighters, and so the price went up by 6. We can review the battles here, and the battles run in rounds. There was only 1 round in this battle. We arrived, and we blew everyone up. We lost an A7 Mauler because we're unlucky as shit. But, yeah, we blew up the defenders and also killed 9 of the population. In Kami, however, that battle lasted 3 rounds. My super space fighters didn't quite have the firepower to kill everybody in 1 round. So, first round we lost 6 super space fighters, next round we lost 4, and the last round we didn't lose any. So we lost a total of 10 of our fighters taking the planet. At this point, what I'm going to do, and I'm not going to keep this running, this video's gone on long enough for an intro, but at this point what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my cargo boosters out. I'm going to make a new fleet. It's going to be an auto fleet, because what I want is I want to strip this planet clean. We're going to take all the population and as much of the Ultranium as we can. assemble an auto fleet, we can now click Edit Orders. For auto fleets, this is important. This automatically queues up the orders that I gave it. So this fleet, Wily Shadow, has the orders to, anytime it arrives at Isaran, load up all the population first, and then whatever space it has left, fill with Ultranium. We're going to deploy it to Arion. So what's going to happen is, it's going to arrive from Isaran to Arion. It's going to automatically unload everything. It doesn't have any orders to pick anything up, so it'll just turn around and come back to Isaran. Once it arrives at Isaran, it'll once again pick up all the population and all the Ultranium, and then it'll take them back to Arion. We're also going to give this world an order. We're going to give it the order to buy as many war mechs as it can. So, next turn, it'll get 47 population. Those 47 population will be allocated to building war mechs. War mechs have a complexity of 12, so it'll build 3 of them plus most of another one. The next turn, after that, the Wily Shadow will show back up. We're going to edit orders here. We're going to say collect all units of war mech. Save that. So after it's picked up all the population it can and all the Ultranium it can, it'll pick up all the war mechs it can. There'll be a few war mechs here. And so it will ferry them back to Arion, and they will drop them off here. Once we start building Gigantoplanet attackers again, we'll have a ready-made small flow of chaff to put on those Gigantoplanet attackers. And so that's the basics of how you play UltraCorps. You make fleets, you deploy fleets, you concentrate resources in production centers. Not all the resources usually, like this planet over here, I probably am actually going to buy a license for a fighter. And so I look at this and I go, what's cheap? What's gone down? X6 Instigators, they're okay. They've got speed 90, so they're comparable to my super space fighters. They've got a little bit of firepower to them. We're going to buy that license, and that will leave us a certain amount of money, a certain amount of population. I can buy 4 X6s. So let's buy 4 of those, and then lock in another max order. Help those guys. Those guys can help me expand in the future. This little fleet here can keep on trucking and head out to Cannae, I think. But let's check to see what's close to Cannae. So we're going to center the map there. Nothing's within 70 units of it. Well, I'll tell you what else could I get to? Couldn't get to anything else in one turn. But from Guveria, I could hit Yasin, I can't pronounce that word. And then 2 turns away would be Cannae again. So I could hop up there, hit that, and then go hit nearest. So this is the strategy of UltraCorps. In any case, I know this game, it has, obviously, visually speaking, it's aged badly. Like I said, very 90s look to it. But like I said, I had a lot of fun playing this game when I was younger. And I think we're gonna run through this mega game and just show y'all how it goes. So, thanks for watching. Hopefully this will be enjoyable to you, but if not, I understand. This is more of kind of just a self-indulgent thing. Well, I mean, it's my channel. Everything I do here is a self-indulgent thing. But this is just something that I was thinking about lately, and I think and hope it'll be interesting. So, thanks once again for watching. I'll see y'all in Destruction Delivered. If anyone does want to play UltraCorps, if this has piqued anyone's interests, by all means, join this game. Just go to ultracorps.sjgames.com, sign up for an account. It's free. It takes just a moment. They don't really collect much information except an email address. You can hop on in, join Destruction Delivered, join my Discord channel, and or my Discord server rather. I will be happy to give people advice. I'll be happy to help you out. I absolutely would love to see more people getting into this game. I think it's great. If you're the kind of person who enjoys playing Dominions, UltraCorps is very much the same kind of thing. Obviously, it's different in details. It feels a little bit different when you're playing it, but, well, all I can say is, I'm the kind of person who plays Dominions a lot, and UltraCorps sucked me in, man. I spent years and hours and hours and hours on this game. I might have played UltraCorps in total for more time than I've played Dominions, which is a weird thing to say, but, UltraCorps games are shorter than Dominions games, but to consider, I've completed 6 mega games and 54 smaller games. I have not completed that many games of Dominions, and 1 ring game, although there were 2 more that I was actually knocked out of, but there was 1 that I did finish. So, despite the fact that this is that these games are a lot shorter than Dominion's games, I think time-wise, I'm probably comparable. In any case, this has gone on long enough. Thanks once again for watching. I'll see y'all in Destruction Delivered.